What's up, guys? Josh here, and today we're going to be watching Joe Rogan talk about Jesus Christ, Christianity, morality. This one gets really, really good. I'm very excited to share this with you. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
You know, I've always been attracted to the idea that these people really believe. It's fascinating when I watch super religious people that are praying 5 times a day, and I'm like that is amazing. Look how dedicated they are to that thing. There's an attractiveness to that. God, I wish I was if I was that dedicated to something, I'd probably be way more stable in my life.
Yeah.
You know, because you're just locked in and everybody believes, and you see people talking about the religion with utmost certainty. I wish I was that certain.
Yeah.
Wish I was that certain. Those guys are so certain they're willing to die.
I haven't got there, but I have started going to church every now and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I do.
I do too. It's a bunch of people that are going to try to make their lives better. They're trying to be a better person, and they're trying to. I mean, for me at least, the place that I go to, they read and analyze passages in the Bible. I'm really interested in what these people were trying to say, because I don't think it's nothing. There's a lot of atheists and secular people that just like to dismiss Christianity as being foolish. It's just fairy tales. I hear that amongst self-professed intelligent people. It's a fairy tale. I'm I don't know if that's true. I think there's more to it. I think it's history, but I think it's a confusing history. It's a confusing history because it was a long time ago, and it's people telling things in an oral tradition and writing things down in a language that you don't understand, in the context of a culture that you don't understand, and I think there's something to what they're saying. I think there's a reason why they all have a flood myth. I think there's a reason they all have a very similar story of catastrophic floods and chaos, and then that jives with what geologists are finding and what these people are finding that are exploring the Younger Dryas impact theory, that there was floods, massive, enormous amounts of water that are instantaneously released from melting ice caps all over the world because of comet impacts. It happened. There's physical evidence of this happening. And I think that's what they're trying to say in these stories. I just think it's so confusing. It's so confusing because you're dealing with a time so long ago. We talk about how different people live today on Earth, but way more similar today than we would be reacting or interacting with a society that existed 6,000 years ago. What are we even talking about? What is that like? What is the world like then? What is discourse like? What rules are there? What protections do you have against being robbed and stolen from? And how often is war? What is life like back then? It's fucking nuts. And so you're writing things down on animal skins frantically and hiding them in clay jars in Qumran, and I hope somebody finds this someday. And then thousands of years later, someone does. They find these ancient fucking scrolls, and they pull them out, and they're versions of stories from the Bible. So these people have been telling these same stories for thousands of years. Well, okay, what were they trying to say? That's what's interesting to me. I don't think it's nothing.
No.
I think there's something to it, and there's a reason why it resonates with people. And Christianity in particular is the most fascinating to me because there's this one person that everybody agrees existed that somehow or another had the best plan for how human beings should interact with each other and behave, and was the best example of it, and even died in a non-violent, didn't even protest, died on the cross, supposedly for our sins. It's a fascinating story. What does it represent, though? That's the real thing. What was that? What happened? Who was Jesus Christ if it was a human being? What was that? That's wild.
So what does that represent? What does Christ's life, his incarnation, death, resurrection, miracles, teachings, what does it all mean? I think what Joe is wrestling with here is the question, is Christ really who he claimed to be? Is he God? What is all of this about? What does it all mean? We know he existed, and Joe knows this, and he says this himself in a moment, that the story of Jesus Christ is history. But there's so much noise surrounding the topic. And like he's saying, it's a very complex, difficult thing to really unpack and understand. But he's searching. He's found Christianity already because he's a truth seeker. And he found it. He found truth with a capital T. And so anyways, Joe Rogan is about to correct or at least add to Jordan Peterson's symbolic or psychological interpretation of the story of Christ. So let's watch that.
Well, Jordan's idea, as I understand it, is that the point of the story, if you like, is it's about voluntary self-sacrifice. It's about the fact that to have a good society, people have to be willing to sacrifice something of themselves for others. And that's what Jesus is, and that story is supposed to inspire in all of us.
Right, but it's a historical human being too, though.
Yeah.
It's a historically documented
Right.
human being. That's where it gets weird, because there's a universal depiction of what this human being was like that doesn't seem to vary that much between all the people that knew him. That gets weird.
The lessons that you learn from going to church are incredibly profound. Something as simple, so I was raised Catholic, as, you know, they'd say, peace be upon you, towards the end. Let's show each other a sign of peace.
Yeah.
And you literally shake hands with the person next to you.
Right.
You don't know this person, you may have never met them, but you shake hands with the person behind, in front, and whatever else.
Yeah.
What an incredibly profound gesture that is. Just to shake hands with someone. And all your anger and all your resentment and everything you feel, which is natural, and jealousy, and you go, but you make a literal physical connection with another human being. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
I love this point because it's so important to remember how vital rituals are. Even the seemingly mundane or random things like shaking hands and passing the peace is what this ritual is called. It's an ancient ritual that's just under 2,000 years old, I think at 1900 years, something like that. And the purpose is to forgive, to let go, whatever issue, whatever things you have against your neighbor, right? Whatever you have against each other before the Lord's Supper, before the Eucharist. And that's, and these two rituals that I just mentioned, the Eucharist as well, these are absolutely life-changing, life-transforming rituals. But why do rituals matter so much? Well, think of what a ritual is. It's like a habit, but more. There's this quote attributed to Lao Tzu. It says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So that, I think, demonstrates to a certain degree at least why habits, rituals are so important, and getting the right rituals in place, that's not as easy as it sounds. And Christianity, the scriptures, Jesus's teachings do this very well, right? The teachings that Christ passed on to the apostles, and they passed on to the bishops all the way down to this day that we hold to this day. All of the, you go to a traditional Christian church and you're going to be praying and worshiping in the way that they did thousands of years ago. So part of the reason why Joe Rogan and these guys and many others as well are drawn to Christianity is because they've seen through the mist of confusion and they got a glimpse of something shiny, something sparkling. They got a glimpse of beauty. They got a glimpse of truth. And what they really got a glimpse of was God himself, the Logos, in the scriptures, in Christ's life, his ministry, his service, his story, his teaching, and in the habits and in the rituals of Christianity. And like Joe has said in the past, this stuff works. This is ancient wisdom that changes you from the inside out. It literally makes you a better person. All right, it makes you more generous, makes you more kind, makes you more diligent, makes you more courageous, loving, good. And I think Joe has gotten to the point to where he's thinking something like, the Bible Jesus' life and teachings, this whole Christian thing, it's making sense. It's making so much sense, right? The advice they give works for the individual, works for building the greatest civilizations in history, right? The Byzantine Empire thrived and survived for over 1,000 years. The America, England, right? The West is not looking great at the moment, but it was founded on Christian values and Christianity, and it's survived for a very long time. And if it sticks to those or returns to those Christian values, it'll last for who knows how much longer, and it'll thrive, because that's what happens when you follow Christian values and morality and teachings. So he's thinking these things. It works at every level, but these are big claims. Jesus claimed to be God. Can I believe that? And these are difficult things. These are big questions that he's struggling with. And sure, we have eyewitness accounts of Christ's resurrection and ascension, like Wes Huff said on his podcast, right? Jesus appeared to more than 500 followers at one time after his death and resurrection. But can we ever be as certain and all in as these people Joe Rogan's talking about? Right, that's kind of the question he's asking himself. All right, can I ever be as certain and all in as these people around me in this church, locked in, praying every day, 100% convinced? I don't know.
And if you don't have something to believe in, there's not a thing that you follow that you believe is making you be a better version of yourself, be a better person. If you're just relying on your whims and your, whatever you think is the moral thing to do, then you know what you get? You get those people that are unable to answer the question of whether or not you should protect an unborn fetus or whether or not they have human rights. No, they don't. And they just, and they just that's what you get. That's what you get when you have no religion.
Yeah.
If you have religion, you go, wow, that's a good question. That's a very good question.
I'm so glad that he made this point, because basically what he's saying is, without religion, without Christianity, because this is the religion that Joe has currently chosen, at least, he's going to a Christian church. Without it, we are in real trouble. But why? Why is that? Well, we could spend a really long time on this subject alone, but I'm not going to. I think it boils down to these three things, or amongst others, but these are some of the biggest things. Without religion, Christianity in particular, of course we lose God. We lose the Trinity, but we lose as well objective morality. And our moral compass goes wonky. Goes all over the place, and we're seeing evidence of that now in America and in the West. We lose unity. To build and to maintain a strong civilization, you have to have a higher universal. You have to have a logos to unite you together. With atheism, for example, you don't get that. That's part of the reason why they're dying out. You don't get that strong uniting cohesion. And this is also the reason why we've never seen a successful nation built on the back of atheism. China is about as close as it gets with their so-called atheist state. But according to studies, 85% of their population observes religious practices with regularity. Not exactly atheist. Maybe the leadership. Lastly, we lose the transcendent aim. And this is incredibly important, right? Where your attention goes, actions flow, and where actions flow, things grow. I have a lot of conversations with atheists, and one of the things that I like to ask is what their highest purpose is. It's always very interesting hearing different responses to this. What are the most important things you're aiming at? What's interesting is it's often actually very Christian in terms of values, and I want to have a family, I want to be a good father, a good mother, whatever it is. But it's never this type of Christian answer. It's never, I want to join with God. I want to be like Christ. I want to be transformed by perfect love. These transcendent goals you have to do away with when you lose God and you lose Christianity, you lose religion. Without God, your aim will inevitably be lower. And how can we achieve the greatest things in life without aiming at the highest? Without aiming at the highest things, without aiming at God, without aiming at the Logos.
And it's also as well, when we look at the New Atheist movement, and that's something that I really followed, Dawkins and all these kind of people who pointed out the ridiculousness of certain religions, etc., etc. And then we don't need religion. I think that's fundamentally inaccurate. I think human beings need religion.
I don't know if you need it, but it definitely can help.
But I think societies need it.
Yeah. But I just think it's silly to dismiss all these stories as being useless.
Totally.
I think they were trying to say something.
Right.
And I don't know what that something is, but the deeper you dive into it, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah. Well, last time we had Richard on the show, if you remember, we kind of pushed him on this.
Yeah.
And his as far as we could get is he was like, well, maybe it's a story that's useful, but it's still not true. And I'm going, well, if it's useful, maybe we should hang on to it for a little bit. Do we want to throw away something that's useful because we're so fixated on literal truth when this is perhaps a metaphor for something, right?
Perhaps, yeah.
So yeah, I've kind of moved on that. I was, I used to love all that New Atheist stuff. But...
Me too. But a lot of those guys fell apart. And all those guys get real persnickety. They don't seem very enlightened. They don't seem like they're at peace, which is interesting, because that's the true Christians that I've met. And I've met some like legitimate, like very charitable, kind Christians. They're some of the happiest and kindest people I've ever met.
And that's borne out in the statistics as well.
Yeah.
So here's the reality of it. Everyone who intuits the pattern of truth, that is, the Logos, will be drawn to Christ, of course, because Christ is the Logos. Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But what is truth? As Pilate famously asked Christ, St. Augustine, or Augustinus, answers, truth is God himself, who is the primal source of life and the primal essence, as he is the highest wisdom. For he is that unchangeable truth which is rightly termed the law of all arts and the art of the almighty artificer. And Jesus Christ himself says, everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice, or everyone who is in the truth or belongs to the truth listens to my voice, depending on your translation. So anyways, that's all I've got for you for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please share, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff, and I will see you